All right, this is a 2003 Cavalier 2.2 Ecotech. Not a bad little motor, seems to work all right. I'm going to be doing a bearing and the timing, or not the timing, but the serpentine belt and serpentine belt pulley. So I will do this in a couple of parts. To start with, here I am. This is the brake master cylinder. I'm just going to loosen the cap and set it on there because I'm going to come over here. I wanted to show you this part. I've already taken the lug nuts off using my faithful great big Johnson bar here and a 19 mil socket. So I've already got that loosened up. And then I am going to try to show you one of the things that I've found that always helps is if you can get a screwdriver or something without wrecking the pads, and just jeepers, it's not going to work because I only have one hand, and just start working the piston here. If you get this pressed in before you pull this apart, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassle later on when you go to put it back together. So anyway, I'm going to get my other hand back and then I'll show you more as we go. As far as I might even take this nut off without you guys, but we'll see. Alright, I'll let you know. Okay, got a couple of tips here on the 03 Cavalier. One of them is there's these whoa, don't do that. That's a good tip because that will wreck the flex line. Anyway, I wanted to show you in here, these are the Torx nut for the slider. And what I do before, because I can't usually see back in there very well, is I take a screwdriver and I clean around really well to get any dirt out. And then I take my socket and I put it in, and what I do then is I pull the ratchet off of the socket, and no matter how well I think it fits, I either use a sacrificial extension or I'm just very careful and I actually give that a couple of light taps just to make sure it sets in real well before I start trying to twist on it, because otherwise what will happen is a bit of debris could be in there. If you had a blowgun nearby, that'd be handy too. Scrape around and then blow any dirt out that you can, and then still get. I always give it a tap, even if I'm pretty sure I'm all the way down to the bottom. I just give it a little bit more, because the last thing you want to do is strip something out in here, because that gets rather expensive. So that's one of the tips on getting the brake caliper off. And then the other thing here, I'm in park still. I've got my, this is a brand new nut, and I haven't got this loose. This is the axle shaft, and I'm trying to get this hub off. I don't know if you can see the bolt back in here. So what I've got is the old nut here that was on in this position. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it around backwards, and I'll thread it on so it's just sticking out past the end of the axle, so it's going to protect it like so, and it's a lock nut, so it's a bit hard to get on. But by doing that, I can take a hammer before I loosen this hub, and I can hopefully break this axle loose without too much trouble. I know the other side we ended up torching a lot of it apart, so I'm hoping to avoid that this time. The other thing I wanted to show you, just in case you've never done this before, on this hub there's 3 holes around here. So once I'm done messing with this axle here, I'm going to put it back into neutral, and this hole, which is larger, takes your, I think this was the 5.5, and this allows you to get the socket all the way through. These ones, you can't do it and you'll come up short. So you need to be able to spin this around. But first you kind of want to be done turning on all these pieces, break this axle loose, and then loosen these bolts back in here that hold the hub on, And then here we got the new hub. You can see it's got all the bolts here. It's also got the one bigger hole, and then you can see kind of the bolt pattern here where it bolts on, and we got a seal here as well. So that's that part of the equation. A couple of tips there. Always with Torx and with Allen, if I can get a little bit of a tap on it, I always just feel that much better. And I always try to take a bit of time to just scrape around in the inside, because that way, even if you can't see, it just gives you a little more insurance. So those are those tips on working on old rust buckets and such type things, because that's always handy to know, because it's one of those things where if you mess it up, it just takes way more to fix it up. Thanks, guys. Wanted to show you another thing here on this Cavalier. I had mentioned there's the large hole for getting the socket through and the bolts through. Then there's these two smaller holes. So what I've done is I've backed this bolt out, and I actually got it so I could reach with my wrench to the bolt through the small hole, and then I'm backing it off and I'm putting torque. So I'm pushing against the what do you even call this? The main piece, putting pressure to spread the hub away. Now I don't think I'm going to actually loosen anything off, but what it's going to do is it's going to put some pressure on. Then I'm going to whack it a couple of times with a hammer and see if I can break it loose. And then kind of like with this axle, which came loose no problem with my nut trick, about 4 whacks good and hard, the 4-pound mini sledgehammer, and it came loose real nice. So now I'm going to get this loose, then I'm going to finish taking these bolts out, and then the whole thing comes off. Alright, just thought I'd let you know how I was thinking on that one. So here we are again. This is a banana, and here is a new bearing sitting in there. My idea to back these bolts out to put some pressure on and give it a few smacks with the hammer worked out well. I actually ended up there's 3 bolts around here, and I ended up doing a little bit to each one till I got it coming out kind of straight, and then I could just wiggle and pry. It almost kind of popped out all at once. Started putting the new nut back on. I haven't finished that yet, but I'll torque that up, and then from there I guess that's pretty well it. Just reverse putting the brake back on. I do need to clean up the sliders. I noticed they were a little bit on the sticky side, and really it actually needs a brake job, but not today. I can do that some other time. I'm going to do a video on the fan belt, the serpentine belt, but yeah, that's basically a wrap on this one. I don't think I really have to show too much more. Any questions, I'm pretty sure I can answer. This one is also a DIY, no problem. It's again another one of those jobs where if you've done stuff like it, I've done quite a few of these Cavalier bearing hubs because it's the whole thing. Some of them go easy, some of them don't. And again, if you know kind of the tricks to do things, like how to get a Torx wrench into your bolt really well the first time, you tend to have a lot less trouble, like loosening axle shafts and such things before you get it all apart. Makes the whole job not necessarily just not faster always, but it makes sure it's more accurate. It's a lot less frustrating getting those things figured out. So I hope that helps, and that if you have questions, you can feel free to ask. And yeah, keep watching. If you check out my channel, I got other videos on other things, some stuff you may never think anybody even bothered to try before. Talk to you.